In Ready or Not, Samara Weaving plays the lead role, a young bride named Grace who takes part in a deadly game of hide-and-seek with her new husband's family. But one of the other big stars in the film is actually her transforming wedding dress, which goes from this to this.
It's its own character in the movie, really.
That's costume designer Avery Plewes, who had to design 24 complex, ever-evolving dresses, despite the fact that the audience only ever seems to see one dress on screen. But first, what does a costume designer actually do?
Basically, you take the blueprint of the script and attach a visual identity to each character based on what's on the page and the director's vision.
This is accomplished using things like color composition and breakdowns of their clothing. For Ready or Not, the dress was supposed to symbolize Grace's journey, from her happy wedding day to the brutal, bloody ending. And this was no easy task. Of the 24 dresses used in the production, 17 were worn by Samara, and the other 7 were worn by her stunt double. So why so many? Well, the dress evolves throughout the film and goes through a series of 5 stages based on the various things that happen to her. On top of that, each stage required at least 3 multiples of each dress to shoot different takes. As co-director Matt Bettinelli-Olpin puts it, the dress, like the story, starts grand and classical before it degrades and degrades.
A good example for me of what I was looking at cinematically was Die Hard, and how Bruce Willis's tank top becomes just trashed. While it's not a wedding gown, it was sort of the same progression of breakdown that we were going for.
That's a lot of costume changes and continuity to be aware of, which required a lot of planning.
I made a flow chart, like a spreadsheet. That's the other thing about costume design that a lot of people don't realize. It's very, very creative, but it's also very technical and a lot of logistics.
And she worked backwards to nail down the final designs, using the script as a guide. Let's take a look at the various stages of transformation. And warning, some minor plot spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the movie. This is the original dress you see at the beginning of the film. It's pure white, untouched, and includes a veil. The look was inspired by Kate Middleton's wedding dress. While it may look like one piece, the dress is actually made up of 5 separate pieces: a lace top, a corset, a skirt liner, and a silk sash.
And I did that on purpose so that when we were on set and they had limited time but wanted to do several takes, we could just throw a different skirt on her or throw a different top on her, and it would make the process faster.
Here's the progression of some of the key changes to the hero dress. Early on in the film, Grace's dress gets caught on the dumbwaiter, and she tears the fabric, transforming the gown into a skirt. This piece was made from a fabric called tulle.
Tulle is really easy to rip and also looks really beautiful when it's ripped. And the dirtier and sort of more messed up it gets, the more interesting it looks.
Lace was chosen for the top because of the way the blood would look on the material. This is also when we see her add some ammunition and a gun to her look, which can be seen in the movie posters. Now that the dress was shorter and it was easier to run from her murderous family, things started to get a lot darker, literally.
Then she runs and falls into the goat carcass world, which then we dyed her dresses a hair darker, which most people can't really tell, but that was actually a story point to show sort of an arc in what happens to her. 5 multiples of the same tea-stained yellow dress were used in this stage. One of the scenes involved harness work, which required special alterations. After she's harnessed, we obviously can't use that dress again because it's got holes and spots where they're going to visual effects out the harness wires or whatever. And also, those dresses are usually made a size bigger to accommodate the harnessing. She also gets shot in her hand, which leads to her tearing a sleeve off the lace top and using it to bandage her wounds. Anytime she has to tear the dress, as with the skirt scene we mentioned earlier, the material is pre-cut and stitched back on so it tears easily. We pre-rigged it. Samara is like a very strong woman, but there's no way she would have been able to rip that off. Basically, the dress was created to be destroyed.
Grace's dress gradually gets dirtier and bloodier as she fights back against the family. Various new cuts and tears happen at this stage, like when she squeezes through the fence. The lace top is sliced along the back, and another piece of the skirt is pulled off. She also removes the silk sash and uses it as a weapon. So the dress isn't just a visual representation of her character, it's also functional. By the end of the film, Grace becomes completely drenched in blood. So the color changes once again, this time from yellow to pure red.
The dress that she is covered in blood in was sort of one of her dirtiest dresses that we had kind of destroyed, that we had a couple versions of. We just went full Carrie and dumped blood all over her. We didn't pre-bloody it or anything.
One of the biggest challenges when doing this many costume changes is continuity.
You have all these things that happen to her continuously, and so tracking the continuity is extremely tough.
But the final stage, when the dress is already badly damaged and covered in blood, was actually the easiest, because it's more difficult for the viewer to notice subtle changes. While both the character and the dress go through a pretty horrific ordeal in the film, it has already inspired one bride who reached out to Avery to see if she could wear the dress in her actual wedding.
I'm kind of hoping that I see people doing cosplay Ready or Not weddings. I think that would be pretty cool, but we'll see.